Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video I thought we would discuss the best supports from every race in the game. I will try and stick with the role of only support characters. There are some races where you can't really get a solely only support character. That is mainly Unknown Race. They don't really have many support characters that aren't also DPS characters as well. Lolly Merlin, Hell, that kind of stuff. Yeah, we're going to go over every race. And we'll see what they've got. So, of course, we'll go in order from the race list just because it's easier. Firstly, we'll start with Demons. So, with Demons, they've got LR Cusack, crazy damage reduction, also quite good DPS as well. And also these two as well. So, Red and Blue Esteros. Of course, Blue Esteros has got the Darkness, Red Esteros has got the attack boost, but also the stat lower as well. With the stat lower, he's able to power crazy amounts of damage. You've also got, if he's got the buff up, you take less damage from crits, which is pretty handy. And just pretty much just all the irritating things that I hate about damage reduction characters this Esterosa has, especially in Hero Arena. Like, it genuinely are the biggest pain to deal with. You also then got Green Chandler, but only Green Chandler with Relic. So Green Chandler without his Relic is pretty mediocre. You get Pierce Rate boost, you get damage increase if they're debuffed, which is pretty handy for characters like Demon King and, you know, Blue Assault Melee. But where it really starts to get useful is his Relic. So his Relic gives you a 50% crit chance boost. That is a permanent boost. That is crazy. Of course, that is everyone being Demon, including backline. For each applicable ally participating in battle, their max HP is increased by 10%, and all enemies' crit chance is lowered by 10% and crit damage by 20%. What this means is you're running a 4-man up team, you're lowering their crit chance by 40% and their crit damage by 80%, which is kind of crazy because it's for each applicable ally. So yeah, you can do a lot of damage just by having him in the back. Of course, I was talking about 4-man up. If it's 3-man up, it's a 30% crit chance lower and a 60% crit damage lower, which is also pretty crazy. And then they haven't really got many other good supports. You could technically say Red Chandler, which is also, he's not a bad support character. You know, Blue Cusack, obviously Nebulous Eldris, but you can't run this Eldris with Demon King, so you're not really going to be running this Eldris. You got Demi as well, which is, of course, from the Overlord collaboration. He is crazy broken. Not only do you get 10% damage reduction per demon, you get a 5% basic stats per demon. If enemies play a debuff skill, that lowers their max HP by 30% for one turn. If they're, you know, the green, for example, and he has attribute advantage, he does 50% more damage, which is crazy. His mind control debuff lowers their damage dealt by 30%, and they cannot target Demi. And his Blazing Infernos, which is he applies 2 to every enemy every turn, increase the damage they take by 15%. But that's not it. With his Relic, for each one of those debuffs, you also get a 5% damage boost for your entire team, up to 40%. So not only can the enemies be taking, you know, 120% more damage, you can also deal 40% more damage on top of that, plus you got the basic stat boost and damage reduction. He's one of the more broken and more irritating demons in the entire game. Of course, he's collaboration, so he's extremely exclusive. And we probably won't see Overlord maybe for a little while, but we may see it a little bit sooner than what we actually probably think, because the developers really like Overlord, really like Overlord. And on to Giants. So Giants, they have actually quite a good selection of supports. Sadly, a lot of them did come out extremely recently, so realistically you're not going to have a lot of them. So you've got LR, of course, LR Diane, who's a crazy tank. You can use her for lots of content. You know, her taunt, she's got damage cap, PvP, single target can put out lots of damage because of her passive, as well as it can remove Volt Gauge, lower HP, which is all really handy. Her ultimate heals and can do a lot of damage, especially at high dupes. She's a general really good tank. Then you've got characters like Green Skadi, who of course are very recent, but she was a 242. You've got attack relay stat boost. You've got weak point damage boost. You've got the Matronas. I'll put all the Matronas together solely because they're really good, mainly for their Relic. I try weak in Green because Green has the passive heal, which I like to use in Hero sometimes. Damage reduction. And that's really about it. Blue Matrona is good, the better one for PvE, of course, depending on what content you're playing, because she does additionally give another 25% basic stats on top of the Relic, because that's also her passive as well. And then you've got the more recent ones, like Red Droll and Loki. Of course, Red Droll is currently releasing, and then Loki is more of the, like, he came out also like 4 weeks ago, maybe. He's a really good support character, really good DPS for Ragnarok as well as Giants as well, which is sort of what they needed. Now on to Humans. Humans is sort of an odd one. This is where you sort of have to, like, really be quite picky with who's a support and who's a DPS. So I'm in the Darkness, once again, crazy tank, you know, quite meta at the moment as well. Nauseans, he's just a pain to deal with. Damage reduction, basic stats, attack related stats, cleansing, and a stun. You couldn't ask for anything less from a character. Green Sigurd, HP lower, basic stat boost, damage increase, which is also another really crazy collection of abilities to have. I can't see Green Sigurd, I know he's there, there he is, he's at the top. And wherever she is, you know, she provides you a damage increase. She's actually also quite a good DPS as well, which is sort of, this is where we get to like the blurred lines of like, are they DPS or are they support? She can provide really good damage. She gives you a basic stat boost. She can give you a damage increase. You know, her bleed effect is crazy, and she's actually quite good for quite a few event bosses as well. You've got Mixa as well. I don't actually know what Mixa is in my books. But she's only good for PvE, so that's the reason why I try not to really include PvE only characters. But if I am, quite easily I'll add Mikasa here and Viola, who are both really good PvE characters. If we scroll down, let's go to characters I don't have. So, Pograde isn't bad. He's quite a good support. He doesn't really... He wants to deal damage, but the new real damaging skill he's got is his single target. He's really irritating when it comes to his Hellbrand effects. You know, you've got basic stat boost. You've got... decrease you literal damage reduction for humans and a bunch of other stuff as well. That makes him just a pain to deal with. Of course, he can quite easily be countered if you're running a team like Skadi or Green Skadi or Giants with King Diane or Aqua or anyone who has some sort of debuff removal that is either passive or doable turn one. He becomes a little bit less effective. And then we'll go to like the more like odd collection of characters. Masno, he's got a really good shield. You can actually put out quite a bit of damage. He's got taunt turn 1, so he takes a lot of the heat off the team. Shadow, after using Shadow a lot more recently, of course, with these new collaboration characters, because it's actually been quite good with them. You realise his infect's pretty good. He's got basic stat boost for your team, and he's got the corrosion on the enemies as well, which is really handy. Of course, you could argue like Sung, but I feel like Sung plays more of the DPS role. More as like I can run Shadow and Sung on the same team, and I'm more likely going to be relying on Sung than I will on Shadow, because I know Sung can put out a lot of damage, and Shadow does sort of require his buff, which is slightly sad. And also Shadow is quite dupe heavy. And on to probably the final one of this race, who's really good. New Blue Easton. You've got attack boost, basic stat boost, and old gauge depletion whenever you get a kill, which is sort of everything you could ask for. Sadly, her CC is not the best, or at least her base CC is at least not the best. Skills-wise, you're not really using her for skills, you're mainly using her for the basic stats, the attack boost, the HP stuff, for each buff and debuff are active on the battlefield, human allies damage taken, so you get 40% damage reduction. She's just a general pain to deal with, and she's really good to have on the team, especially if you are running like a team that is just covered in buffs for humans. I can't really think of any human team that's just absolutely loaded with buffs. Watching Brynhild's not bad. Debuff spam on the enemy team, so that does count. Song, once again, debuff spam on enemies. All I can really think about for humans is just debuff spam. Now on to fairies. Fairies don't really have too many. Once again, a lot of them dabble in the range of a DPS, but I tried to stick mainly to support here. So Elar Hellbrim, once again, attack related stat boost, basic stat boost. Elar King, cleanse skill, petrify, basic stat boost, everything is really asked for. Beta, once again, cleanse skill, ult gauge, passive heal, and basic stat boost, which are all really handy. I put Green Elaine on there because she's actually not too bad as a support character. Especially if you could afford Toronto, let's say you've got a High Duped or True Awakened or all that kind of stuff, she's not bad. You could argue Alpha once again because of the Mist. The Mist effect is really broken 2 skills they can basically take, that you only take basic stat damage instead of the effect. Because most characters' damage does come from the actual effect of the skill. There's tons of characters you could think about that. And then, of course, I'd say probably this Green King, but this Green King is very situational. If you're running a very B-Tech team for Hirina, he's not bad. With Melee Liz, because you put Melee Liz shield, it does break King's shield, but in the process you get the attack related stat boost early. So it's good unless you're versing a demon team, which is currently actually the most problematic team in Hirina, at least this season. And yeah, that's really it for fairies. I haven't really got the most DPS and support. I could actually just add King Lian on there. Cleanse, insane DPS, good basic stat boost, Petrify, absolutely terrifyingly strong ultimate. Just actually my favourite festival of the year. Still is my favourite festival of the year. Then it would be Skuld. Skuld does fix a lot of problems that I like. I don't know, Goddesses. Goddesses, once again, I've actually got a lot of support characters, which is fine. So these three here, so you've got LR Margaret, LR Liz, and Aqua, all good in their own rights. You know, you've got Freeze, you've got Cleanse, you've got basic stat boost, attack related stat boost. Of course, she is sadly PvE only, but she's still got a lot going for her. And then Margaret, you've got Cleanse, already with insane CC, an ultimate that has a damage increase and a disable effect, which is really handy sometimes. And that's really it. You've got Red Sariel. Red Sariel is really good. You've got basic stat boost and defense related stat boost. Green Elate as well, whatever she is. Green Elate's also really handy. Basic stat boost and actually a damage increase per buff. Not like a Sariel where you get defense related stats. So she's really good for more of an offensive team. If you know you're going to go first, you've got lots of buffs. But with lots of buffs, you need a character like Margaret who can provide you lots of buffs, which means you can't really use someone like Aqua. But Aqua's really good for a team if you are running like Aqua, and you run like Red Sariel and back, because she does provide buffs, and Red Sariel can provide buffs, just not that many, and he doesn't require as many. I don't think at least he does to get his max buff passive bit. You know, I could add Green Tristan there, but I don't feel like Green Tristan really does much. Every time I first did Green Tristan or had any sort of encounter with Green Tristan, he hasn't provided anything for the team that I would consider noticeable or impactful that another character, you know, could replace. You know, he can't replace Margaret. Margaret's cleanser is really impactful. He can't replace Aqua because her skill set is just so much better than Tristan's. Now to the final race, we've got Unknown. Unknown has a lot, and this is where sort of it becomes very blurred lines between DPS and support. Of course, you've got the normal supports like Nanashi and Green Camilla, both in their own right, really good boosters for the Unknown race, which is really what you would want. And then you've got sort of the more blurry line bit where you've got like Merlin, Hell, whatever Hell may be, Hell. You got another really good support, Nabe, really good. Freya, who sort of dabbles in the bit of a sort of DPS, very outdated, but his relic makes it so you know you get basic stat boost and a single target damage increase, which is pretty handy for like Thor or even Skuld, who does have a single target. Even though she is a giant, she does come under the Ragnarok category, which also helps quite a bit. You've then got characters like You Are Gotha, who are very good for the Sins team, or mainly just the Sins team, I'm going to be honest. He doesn't really play the best role in any of the teams. You know, you have to have some sort of multi-race team, and the best team for that has synergy is, I guess, technically Ragnarok now as well, but it would mainly be Sins, because they've got such a wide range of characters across a wide range of races. But that's really it. There's not... I could easily say, oh, Sam, because she got a good taunt, which is true, but she really needs some sort of like relic to save her at the moment. She's not the best at the moment. You know, this Merlin's not bad as a backline for Sins, but that's all she's really got going for her. Shion's a really good PvE support. I can say the same about Green Tear. He's got buff removal as well. You know, it's just a very blurred when it comes to lots of these characters, because they're good DPSs, but they're also really good supports as well. But anyway, that's it. Let me know, just if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.